Hello, I'm Unified Dumbass. I just had a comment on one of my videos asking about electron orbital shapes. So in this video, I'm going to try to explain how my one-dimensional string creates electron orbitals. If you only look at these coils from the top looking down, you will see a one-dimensional string. It is the edge of this sheet of paper. If you only look at the coil from the side, you will only see a two-dimensional sheet. In this picture, you can see both the first and the second dimension. As you can see from the top, the first dimension is coiling on top of itself, creating width. This coil can either be very loose or very tight. If it is very loose, it is analogous to a wave. If it is very tight, it is analogous to a particle. In my previous videos, I talked about how measurement either adds or removes tension. When we measure particles, it goes from very loose wave to very tight vortex or particle. This is a centripetal force. It is a capture of energy. By randomly selecting a point on this wave coil, a vortex will localize around that point. Again, this is all within the first dimension. We are only looking at the coil from the top, looking down. From this point of view, you can only measure position. Now, if you only look at the two-dimensional sheet, and if you were to interact with it, you could only measure the flow of this sheet. This is the uncertainty principle. The more you know about the particle's position, the less you know about its angular momentum. The more you know about its angular momentum, the less you know about its position. The length of the second dimension, the first dimension, is where you can find a location on this dimension, a position. The width of the second dimension is where you can measure the angular momentum of this sheet. Because we are three-dimensional, we can interact with the first and second dimension, but only to a degree, based on the uncertainty principle. Depending on the property you are measuring, either position or momentum, the universe forces you into the first or second dimension. It forces you to choose a perspective. You're either looking from the top position or the side momentum. When the first dimension warps, it creates the second dimension. When the second dimension warps, it creates the third dimension. The probability of an electron cloud emerges from the first dimension, which is again the wave and particle, plus the second dimension, which is angular momentum. When the second dimension warps, it creates volume, our 3D reality. 2 plus 1D equals 3D. Now we're back in the factory. We're in 3D reality. And in this picture, you can see that this two-dimensional sheet is warping in our three-dimensional reality. Now, if you had a lot of warping and it creates a heap and a huge stack of this warped tissue paper, that'll create volume. The second dimension is fucking flowing, okay? It warps and it tightly coils into the third dimension. Now that we have volume, in physics, highly concentrated, localized energy is exactly what defines mass. A point in 3D is the moment the abstract wave function of the 1D plus 2D string localizes into a physical, tangible particle occupying a specific volume in our universe. Because a point in 2D is momentum, the string is flowing and looping to create width. You can't pinpoint a single 3D particle yet because the energy is still acting like a wave. This cloud is the literal blur of the first dimension time string vibrating so fucking fast in the second dimensional plane that it looks like a solid sheet. It represents the potential for mass to appear. An electron orbital is created when that flowing 2D momentum sheet folds, warps, and condenses into 3D space to create mass. The reason we get different orbital shapes is entirely due to how much energy is vibrating through the string, forcing it to warp differently into our 3D reality. The s orbital is a perfect sphere. The 1D string loops evenly in all directions. The 2D sheet warps completely symmetrically into a 3D volume. It creates a tightly packed uniform ball of probability. For the p orbital, as energy increases, the string begins to vibrate like a harmonic wave on a guitar string. It moves back and forth along a single axis. The two lobes are the pockets where the 2D sheet is actively warping into the 3D mass. The center point where the lobes meet is a node, 0 probability. In the universe, this is the exact coordinate where the 2D sheet crosses over but does not warp into the 3D volume. No warp equals no mass, which equals 0 probability. At even higher energies, we get a complex fractal, the d orbital. This is a clover or a dumbbell with a donut around it. The string is now twisting on multiple axes simultaneously. This complex fractal-like vibration forces the 2D sheet to warp into 4 distinct 3D pockets. An electron orbital is a 2D sheet of momentum warping into a 3D volume of mass, but you can only look at one dimension's property at a time. Unified dumbass is gone.